The bats are going to be really interesting on this slate. There's a lot of teams that are in phenomenal spots, but I also do like the pitching as well. It's kind of intriguing how it shakes out that way, but we'll dive in here in a second. Welcome to FSi DFS. I'm McKinley412, one of the MLB coaches here, alongside Mega Ruler, who does some of the other videos, and Mattman Noah, who also helps us out with the cores and the rankings and the sheets that we do have. Back-to-back days, we've had a big takedown in the chat from our members. Hopefully we can keep that streak going here on this 10-game slate here tonight. So let's dive into it. We'll start off with the pitchers, top 5 pitchers in terms of salary, Webb on up. Lopez, he's the first guy that really stands out. He is my top ranked pitcher. I do have the sheet over here. We will get to the sheet in a moment. Well, we'll just get to it now. Lopez, he's the top guy for me. He's going to have the biggest floor on the slate. Anybody facing off against the White Sox this season is going to be a pitcher that you're going to have interest in. Their strikeout rate is just laughably high, and the offense just can't do anything at this point in time. They just got destroyed by Paddock. Yikes. After Lopez, Rodriguez, Stroman, Gilbert, and then I think there's a big gap, and then Webb's really rounding things off. I don't have really too much interest in Webb at all. Gilbert, I think, is the best amongst these three, the Rodriguez, Stroman, and Gilbert crew. I think Gilbert, real-life pitcher, strikeout rate, walk rate, the floor that he can bring, I like him the most. However, he has got the toughest matchup. He is facing off against Texas. Now, Texas, their offense does struggle quite a bit against right-handed pitching, but still, I think I do like Rodriguez a little bit more. Rodriguez does give that good upside along with him. However, he a little dicey on the walk rate. Let me see. Yeah, he's been walking quite a few guys here, as you can see. But I do really like the ceiling that he can provide. Also, the potential for that win that he could get playing on this Baltimore team that is phenomenal, and an Angels team that is, less than exciting. We'll put it that way. Stroman, he's also got a nice matchup. He is the most expensive of the bunch, but he is facing off against Oakland. I mean, there's not too much to say about that. Let's go to the mid-tier. Gossman is always going to be like the biggest question mark. Not always, but he has been the biggest question mark on slates so far this season in terms of what's he going to bring? Is the velocity there? Is it not? He had that shoulder injury throughout spring training that really, set him back. And then in the first couple of starts, his velocity was drastically down. We're talking 3, 4, 5 miles per hour on the fastball. But then the last start, it came back up. A little shaky. It didn't look super great, but the velocity was there. Now he's in this matchup facing off against Kansas City. Kansas City offense that you shouldn't be sleeping on by any means. This is a good Kansas City team. I think Gossman's going to be a really intriguing decision for many people. I don't mind him if you do want to go that direction. If you do fall to him as your SP2 in cash games, that's fine. I would definitely listen to that argument. Am I super confident that he has fixed everything and the velocity is back and his shoulder's fine? No, I'm not super confident in that. But given the rest of the people in this mid-tier, I think that he does rank above all of them. Max Fried, he just has not looked like Max Fried, really, so far to start the season. However, he's got a phenomenal matchup against Miami. Miami cannot hit left-handed bats at all. They just can't. And Max Fried, he just has not struck out teams as much as we've come to expect from him in previous seasons. But he's going to get it together. And honestly, a home game against Miami is the way to fix it all. He actually just faced them 10 days ago. 4 strikeouts only, but still was able to register 20 points because Miami against left-handed pitching is just drastically bad. After that, Waka. Yeah, I might even put Severino over Waka, to be completely honest, once I dive a little bit more into the research. But Waka, tough matchup against Toronto. I just worry that, his strikeout rate is not going to be enough, and Toronto's just going to be absolutely able to just send them. Severino, Blackburn, for him, His ERA does not match his xFIP at all. The numbers look good on the surface level so far to start the season. The ERA of 1, obviously the xFIP doesn't match his ERA, but his expected ERA is closer to around like 4. He also has not faced really anybody of the Yankees' offensive caliber. St. Louis, they've been a dud offensively. Washington, nope. Detroit, nope. Cleveland, even Cleveland, like, yeah, they're a decent offense, but they're not going to be, swinging for the fences. They make contact, they hit a bunch of singles, doubles, steal bases, and that kind of route. So I think that the Yankees should be able to get to Blackburn, so I don't have too much interest in him, and I feel like the surface level numbers on him are, I don't want to say a scam, but a scam. Going into the cheap tier, King, he is facing off in Coors Field for San Diego. King, his last start out, he was flirting with that no-hitter for so long, and then finally went away. But he looked absolutely dominant in that showing. Every pitch that he was throwing, like, it was just, catcher's mitt barely had to move. It was really impressive. So I think, like, he's got legit stuff. He is playing in Coors, though. It is something you do have to be monitoring and paying attention to. But still, I think that he's a fine play regardless of Coors. Like, Castillo was just pitching in Colorado. I'm not comparing Castillo to King as, like, the same level of pitching talent. But still, I feel like a lot of us, in terms of DFS, sometimes get too scared about Coors Field, and we forget that Colorado is a really bad team. And sometimes we just need to take the good pitcher against a bad team, and altitude, so be it. After King, there's a couple guys that I really just don't have interest in at all. Fetty was a guy who I had high hopes for coming into the season. He didn't do great in the MLB in previous years. He went over to the KBO and actually won like the Cy Young equivalent over there. He was absolutely dominant, had 20 wins. His ERA was around like 2 or 3. Just looked unreal. Came back over here. I had really high hopes for him. Just doesn't seem to be translating. So a little bit lower on him. I really think a lot of my ownership for pitching is going to be sticking up into this high tier. There's going to be enough value on the slate. I don't think that salary is going to be too much of an issue. So long story short, I think definitely stick towards the high tier. Lopez to Gilbert, and then Gossman to maybe Waka, but probably Gossman, Fried, King. That's kind of where I'm keeping my player pool. Going into the bats, I mentioned that there are so many bats that I have a whole lot of interest in. These are really in honestly no particular order. Baltimore, Arizona, Chicago, Houston, San Diego. All 5 of these teams are in just amazing spots. Baltimore, excuse me, facing off against, Canning, I believe. Yep, there we go. So Baltimore's going to be facing off against Canning. A lot of lefties that they can throw into this lineup here. Kierstad is actually just got called up. He just got called up like 20 minutes before I started this video. So if he gets into the lineup, I could see him being a pretty popular option. Just another left-handed bat that they could throw against Canning, who has not looked great at all. He's just been getting smacked around all season long, every single start. So I do really like Baltimore here. Kierstad for sure. Santer, Monquez. Cowser has insane numbers. It's a small sample size, but Cowser has insane numbers against right-handed pitching so far this season. Cowser, Westberg actually lead like the team, followed by Gunnar Henderson. Really can't go wrong with Mountcastle or Santander, or another lefty in Mullins or an O'Hearn. Like, they have so many left-handed bats and switch hitters in their lineup. I think Canning's going to be in for a really, really long day. After Baltimore, I did put Arizona. Arizona is phenomenal, one of the best teams in the league against left-handed pitching. If I'm going to be going with Arizona, I'm going to be starting with Ketel Marte and Christian Walker. Walker absolutely dominates left-handed pitching his entire career, so going to be going there. Gurriel's a nice option as well. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, find a little bit of value, I'm hoping Blaze Alexander gets the start here. He bats a little bit lower into the lineup, and he is day-to-day. They said he was out when I was looking at the notes, but he was still available off the bench if they really did need him. So maybe another day of rest, and he'll be able to get in there in that nice lefty-righty matchup. Moreno, 3.8K, pretty decent. Yeah, it's kind of it for Arizona, but I do think that they're another team that, like, Matz is not a guy who's going to be striking out many people at all. So Arizona, let's just check the salary. Let's just check the salary in terms of build. So we'll put in, we'll combine them here with Baltimore. All right, who do we want in our build here? Christian Walker, for sure. And then we'll throw in Marte, a little bit pricey. Westberg, already talked about him. Kauser, for sure. Maybe if Kierstad gets in there. Blaze Alexander, for sure. He's cheap. And then let's just go with 2 pitchers kind of on the higher end tier. We'll go with, if we think Baltimore is going to do really well, throw in Grayson Rodriguez. And then we'll go with the floor of Lopez. 2.8K remaining for 2 guys. It's possible. It's possible. So yeah, I really don't think like salary is going to be too much of an issue. You saw that we were just jamming in some of the top plays from each of the teams from there. Chicago and Houston, again, check and pay attention to the weather. Wrigley is extremely impacted by winds, and the winds are going to be blowing strong and straight out. However, rain could just completely postpone this game, so pay attention to that. But Chicago, Houston, I'm not going to dive too much into it, but Houston is just phenomenal against left-handed pitching. Whoop. There we go. Houston's phenomenal against left-handed pitching. Like, their 2 best hitters are Tucker and Alvarez, both left-handed bats, but they are probably the 2 best left-handed bats against left-handed pitching in the entire league, and that's not even really an exaggeration at all. So I really do like the Houston side of things. Pena, I think, still remains a little bit too cheap at 4.1K. Cody McCormick, always interested in playing him against left-handed bats at 3.7. So like, they're going to be affordable as well, maybe not as affordable as teams like Arizona or Baltimore is going to be. And then on the Chicago side of things, Happ could be returning, so just kind of pay attention to him in that news. Nico Horner, he's been batting leadoff for a little bit. The stolen bases with Horner, though, have not been there this season. I mean, we're 22 days into the season at this point. No stolen bases, a little concerning. But still, anytime you're getting that leadoff spot, should certainly be interesting. And then San Diego, they're going to be playing in Coors. Not much to talk about there. In terms of GPP, Atlanta, New York, Toronto, I feel like those are like the big 3 for me. I do want to talk about the cheap Minnesota side here real quick. Minnesota just remains too cheap. And I've said it in previous videos, and I feel like I've been saying this for, how long have we been doing these videos? 3 years now? I feel like I've been saying it every video for 3 years now. Like, Minnesota is just too cheap. It doesn't make any sense. Julian at 3.7K for sure. Kurloff at 3.9K. Where is he? Kepler. Kepler was an absolute disaster. Oh, Larnack, definitely interested in him at 2.8K. Kepler has really struggled to start the season. Oh, he's 3.9K. A little bit pricier than I was expecting. Which I don't know why, because I think it was 3.6 on Monday night slate. But still, Kepler, just a disastrous start. He's battling injury in spring, and then slow start, and then he was out again. I feel like he's going to be fine. He did smack a 2-run double here tonight. So Kepler, he should be able to get it back. Like I said, Fetty just shouldn't. He's just not getting it like I thought he was going to start off the season. So Minnesota, again, just remains way too cheap. They have so many left-handed bats that could, target the Fetty, and then that just disastrous Chicago White Sox bullpen. So there's just a lot of bats that I like, but there's also a lot of pitchers I like. Lopez, G-Rod, Stroman, Gilbert, Gossman, Fried, King. I mean, for a 10-game slate, I feel like having interest in almost half the pitchers, but also feeling that there's like 5, 6, 7 teams that I'm like, I want like full-out stacks of is really intriguing. So hopefully this was able to put you in the right direction. Thank you again for watching. Really do appreciate these videos. Megaroar is going to be back on Wednesday for that video. I think he's also taking Thursday as well, and I'll be back on Friday and on Saturday. But until then, good luck in all of your contests. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.